Okay, greetings. This is going to be a little bit of a different. This is my second start because I made a complete social faux pas. I had a brain, I had, I had a brain vapor lock and forgot the young woman's name. But anyway, there's no science or math in this assignment whatsoever. This is pretty much watch the video. You don't even have to watch the video. You can go to the Wikipedia sites for each one of these athletes that I've mentioned here. And find out the information you need to pass the thing. But I think you might enjoy the videos. There's 17 questions. It's a little 40 minute thing. But you can be like me, and I spent like 2 days working on this assignment because I kept getting deeper and deeper and going, oh yeah, what about this and what about that and what about this? And then I realized I also had to completely dismantle this exercise because it was all dudes. And in fact, this whole assignment is kind of like what I call dudes sitting around a bar talking sports. Like, well, who is the greatest quarterback of all time? Some of us, diehard Chiefs fans, Lenny Dawson. What? He's usually not even in the conversation, even though he's a Hall of Famer. Uh, but he was a great quarterback. In fact, a lot of people don't know this, but Hank Stram, his assistant coach was George Seifert. Might be going, well, who the heck was that? Well, he was the guy who was the father of what is known as the West Coast offense with the San Francisco 49ers back in the 80s when the 49ers won all those Super Bowls with Joe Montana. Um, and but Hank Stram actually invented the West Coast offense. Hank Stram he had small running backs, um, and he saw that throwing short passes was just as safe as running the ball. In fact, he got more yardage, and in fact, if you could get a good back or a good flanker one on one with a cornerback, maybe he could break a tackle and bust it for a big score. Hank Stram was one of the big ones on the way football really does work. Coaches get so locked into this field position thing that and driving and grinding, driving and grinding. That's not the way the scores happen. The scores happen on big booming plays or an interception or a pick six or something like that. So Hank Stram was always like, hey, if you're 2 touchdowns behind, you're not, and your offense is sputtering, so what? It's 2 big plays and you're back in it. Or one big play and you're only a touchdown behind, so don't worry about it. Just keep moving. But anyway, I digress. So, but I realized we're going to be talking about hang times. All right, we're going to do a unit on what we call projectile motion and how long things stay in the air, because a lot of sport has to do with staying in the air. How long can you stay in the air? How high can you jump? How far can you throw something? How hard can you hit a baseball so that it gets out of the park? So you hit 3 home runs like that Houston Astro did yesterday, and we're going to look at home runs in exercise. So you've already done exercise. Uh, what was it, 5 and 6? And so this will be the culminating thing of exercise 7. And then in exercise 8, we'll look at home runs. Okay, then in exercise 9, we'll look at jumping and stuff. But I realized, because we're doing hang time here of basketball players, well, the culminate the exercise that's going to go with this is going to be 2 hang time problems. We'll do one as mini lesson 10. Um, but I realized I had nothing but women on here. I mean, nothing but men. And then, I'm sorry, nothing but men. I'm like, wait a minute. And in fact, my lessons are probably 90% dominated by male athletes. Well, here at UMKC, some of our best teams, some of our best athletes are women. In fact, did you all know that we had an Olympian in the 2016 Olympic, Courtney Freericks? Let me show you. There she is, former student of mine. I tried to get her to be a physics major because she's kind of one of those driven and highly intelligent young women, and she wants to go to medical school. But she told me, she sat down as a sophomore Sat down as a sophomore, or she might have been a freshman. She's a freshman in my class, like in 2006 um, or 2007, around then, between '06 and or 2008, whatever. Might have been later than that, 2010, whatever. And told me as a friend, I want to go to the Olympics. Because I try to get her, she wants to go to med school after she's done, but first she's like, I want to go to the Olympics. And she had the drive. She found the sport that fit her perfectly um, because she was in gymnastics when she was younger. Then she played soccer and ran cross country. Well, you could only pick one sport when you came here. I mean, you could run cross country and do track, I think, here. But she figured out that, hey, with my gymnastics and with my cross country training, her coach said, "You're perfect for the steeplechase." And I think in this article she's kind of like, the what? Because it's not even done in high schools, and she came from a small high school down around Springfield. So steeple, what is that? She got into it and she was ninth. Ninth. She was in the finals and came in ninth. So she went on to become, in a major track and field event, she's the ninth best person in the world right now. Most of us can't. I can't even be the ninth best teacher in a room here at UMKC. So to be the ninth best at anything in the world is an amazing feat. So I wanted to recognize the young ladies. There you go. Yeah, the little ladies. Jeez, Don Draper. So I went back and I went, oh yeah. So I kind of get us started doing the hang times with the NBA slam dunk contest, but then I kind of shift gears there, and you'll have a couple questions about Cheryl Miller. Um, um, she has a fairly famous little brother named Reggie Miller, and in fact, when Reggie Miller was playing back in the early '90s or the mid '90s, and the Pacers were playing the Knicks in a brutal playoff game to get to the NCAA, to get to the NBA Finals. I think they're going to wind up playing the can't remember, the Pistons maybe, but or maybe the Lakers. There's always the Lakers against somebody. But anyway, people in Madison Square Garden start yelling, Cheryl, Cheryl, teasing that, hey, you're still not as good as your sister. Cheryl Miller put women's basketball on the map single-handedly. She was an awesome force. And then right on her heels, Cheryl Swopes, who was part of the inaugural WNBA, which is still going strong. And if you get over yourself and decide to watch it, it's very fun. I've had several women's basketball players from UMKC in my classes, and they've talked me into going, and I've gone to their games. And one of the things that I've recognized that I love, even about going to even to men's basketball here at UMKC, is that, oh yeah, you get to enjoy the game. I mean, I went to a girls' basketball game and it lasted, about an hour and a half. They played two 20-minute. I think the girls played two 10-minute quarters per half. I don't think they play the 20-minute halves like the boys do. Can't remember exactly, but just remember it was very nice. It's very nice, and the kids were there. They were competing hard. They were playing hard, and there's no commercials. And the game was over like in an hour and a half, and it was fun. And I went to a couple of them, and I thought it was great. But anyway, so there's three of the biggest names in women's basketball over the past 25 years: Cheryl Miller, Cheryl Swopes, and Rebecca Lobo. Watch their little videos, and like I said, if the question isn't answered in the video, because once you start watching one of those little 4 or 5 minute YouTube videos, you're going to watch it till the end. And if the question that you're looking for isn't answered, trust me, just go straight to their Wikipedia, and you'll find it. All right, and then you know, women can dunk a basketball. I remember back in the 70s and 80s, we were told by physics people and by scientists saying, "Oh, there's no way a woman could ever dunk a basketball. No way." Well, really? Because their center of gravity is too low, they can't jump. They'll never be able to dunk a basketball. Give me a break. You know, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. All right. So I forgot I'd knocked myself out of there. Um, so you get to watch some famous women dunks, and then if you're like me, you'll stay about 30 minutes there, clicking all kinds of videos on women dunking the basketball. So then I kind of got into the history of the dunk in the NBA and in college basketball. In fact, now this is one of the questions that you have in men's college basketball between 1967 and 1977, 76, 77 season. Um, it was illegal to dunk. It was illegal to dunk because they were starting to get all these players in that were showing up. Guess who they were showing up? Do I have to say it? Really? That's right. You know, Jerry West wasn't all that. Anyway, actually he was. Jerry West, Pete Maravich, Larry Bird. Those, but again, Larry Bird didn't have great sky material. You know, he was just had an amazing court sense and an amazing shot. And he's a superior athlete, but he was no leaper. That's for sure. Um, and so they just said you can't dunk in college basketball for like 10 years. And actually, in some ways, I think it made the players better because they had to have a little bit more finesse when they went in to lay it in gently, lay the ball. And it was called the Lou Alcindor rule. Lou Alcindor was actually the name of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar before he converted to Islam. Um, and I really want to read the book. There's a very, very interesting book that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who's a very, very intelligent, um, um, well-spoken, well-read um, gentleman. He just wrote a book about his relationship with his coach, John Wooden, 50 years with Coach, because they've known each other for 50 freaking years, and they've been best friends for 50 years. And John Wooden, for an old white guy back in the late 60s and early 70s, was pretty forward thinking, much more forward thinking than a lot of his peers like Adolph Rupp at Kentucky, um, in where he saw the nation should be going, and he wasn't going to do anything to get in its way. That's for sure. Um, so anyway, I'd like to read that. But so the dunk was illegal in college basketball until 1976, 77 season or so, from 67 to about a 10-year period. Um, then it came back with a vengeance. With a vengeance. Okay, Connie Hawkins. Hear about Connie? You may not even know about him, so that'll be fun for you to find out. He was kind of there was a new brand of basketball being played, and Connie Hawkins was one of the ones. And all of these guys that I've listed here are kind of the evolution of the new brand, the basketball that you see right now that is um, played in the NBA and in most colleges now. KU plays a very controlled NBA game. West Virginia plays a very. West Virginia has great athletes under Huggy Bear that play kind of a bruising style. West Virginia, I see is I see KU is kind of like the Los Angeles Lakers of the late '80s, early '90s, and West Virginia is like the Detroit Pistons, you know, of the late '80s and early '90s. For some of you are going, I have no idea what you're just talking about. Doesn't matter. Okay, and then Elgin Baylor, one of my favorite players when I was growing up in the '60s. For a lot of the time, though, because I really didn't start following basketball until I was about 7 or 8. My dad had dragged me. We were living in Hutchinson, Kansas at the time, and he dragged me. Didn't drag me. I wanted to go. In fact, we got out of school to go to the National Junior College basketball tournaments in Hutch. It's a double elimination tournament. You had 100 teams, 100 junior colleges there. Kids sleeping in people's houses. Teams staying in schools. It was a party for 2 weeks, and it still is there in Hutch. And that's where I learned numbers, and that's where I fell in love with basketball. And Elgin Baylor was one of my favorite pro players at the time. And back then, the NBA, they would play maybe 2 games a month would be on television. I mean, it was hard to watch. You could pick up CBS radio and listen to the games and stuff. But like the NBA finals were hardly even televised. And heaven forbid if they were going to interrupt, I Love Lucy or something. That just didn't happen. So, and nowadays it's almost oversaturated. In fact, I think the NFL itself has killed itself with the Thursday night through Monday night football. That's just ridiculous. But in fairness to them, but what they'll say is, yeah, but we're still the number one show watched on Thursday night. Yeah, but but what does that really mean? Television's so fragmented. You got people watching BoJack Horseman. A few 100,000 maybe on that Thursday night instead of watching football. All right, watching network television, that's for sure. Okay, then Dr. J, and it's a cool little film. I think it's obviously taken from a 30 for 30 or something like that on this park in Harlem where the best players in the NBA show up and show off their wares, where they really do. It's more of a show than, playing basketball. People are showing off their individual talents and things like that. And that's where Dr. J got his name, Dr. J. And then David Thompson, one of my favorite players when I was like in junior high and high school. He was phenomenal out of North Carolina State. There's one of the answers to the question right there. And as a matter of fact, I put this on the question. When he was a freshman at North Carolina State, this has probably been when he was a freshman, probably 1971, 70. He went out for the spring track team, unbeknownst to his coach at the time, Norm Sloan, and this was at a time when freshmen were not allowed to play varsity. You were not allowed to play varsity if you were a freshman. That also changed about the time the no dunk rule went away. We've come a long way from one and done to one and done, haven't we? Where freshmen couldn't even play on the varsity. And so he went out for the track team, not thinking about it. And the first day of practice, the very first day of practice, he broke the triple jump record, the North Carolina, the university's triple jump record. The guy could have been an Olympian. But back then, an Olympian didn't get paid much. But he had a much more lucrative career in the NBA. He did have he's quite a guy because he overcame some real serious drug issues, and he fought those demons and won, which is a good story. And then I've got one last little clip. Michael Jordan, when he came on the scene in 1983 into basketball, these other guys, Dr. J was retired. Elgin Baylor, long retired, like back in '68 or something like that. David Thompson, I think, hung around until right about the end of when Michael's career was starting. And then came the new NBA. Three big things turned the NBA completely around. The NBA was moribund. It was on its way out. And there's a lot of racial overtones for why that was happening. And then 2 guys showed up that saved the NBA. And the 2 of them both played as seniors this is before one and done again, they both played as seniors in the NCAA championship game in 1978 and then played each other again in the NBA championship game in 1979, and that was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. They transformed they made the NBA popular again. And then right on their heels, 4 years later, you got this kid Michael Jordan showed up, and other kids like him. And then the NCAA became this huge thing with, and that started with Al McGuire calling the games with Dick Enberg, the NBC NCAA basketball games, Saturday basketball games became something to behold, and the rest is history. And now the NBA is still enjoyable to watch. Sometimes they don't play. You got to remember these guys play 82 games in a regular season, and so yeah, they're gonna take some plays off every once in a while. Can't blame them. All right, so there you go. Enjoy. That's all I've got is my 15 minutes of rambling here, and you can enjoy these videos and answer the questions, and it'll be a piece of cake. All right. So out here, this is a Friday. I'm not going to post this till Monday. So we are done here.